show you how we get from this raw wool to this sweater, hand knit by yours truly, Ms. Lantry. So, all wool starts on a sheep. Every sheep has some semblance of wool to them. There are lots of different breeds and there are different qualities to them. This is like a hybrid type of sheep that has really, really fine texture to it. And so we would see that as a higher quality type of wool. This raw wool, it's very, very kind of oily and sticky. It has a chemical on it called lanolin. And so this lanolin is really, really good at keeping the sheep dry. It keeps the water from getting into their skin and causing infections and things like that. And so we don't necessarily want it in our sweaters though. You don't want a greasy and sticky sweater. So we have to clean it, and we use a process called scouring. And that's basically gently taking soap to the wool and turning it into this. So these are actually from the same exact sheep. This is the raw wool, this is the cleaned wool. And so to get them into something that's spinnable, we have tools. But the hand combs are actually pretty fun, because what you end up doing is you separate your fibers a little bit and then you stab them onto the combs. The only reason for them to be sharp is so that they can pick up the fiber, and you work them perpendicular so that they work away from each other. And so this aerates them and it gets all of the fiber into one direction. And I'm actually going to start pulling it off of the combs. This piece of fiber here, where all of your fibers are nice and straight and organized, is what we call roving.
Another process called carding allows the fibers to be separated and smoothed and then rolled.
This piece now has fibers that go horizontally.
Okay.
And then it traps in more heat and it makes for a differently type of spun project. So once you've prepped your fiber, then it's time to decide on a color. If you want to dye it, you can have all sorts of fun things that you can do.
Historically, crushed flowers, fruits, and bugs would have made colors.
You have so many other things to do in a village than just making wool. And so the really nice thing about drop spindles is that you can carry it with you and go about your day while you're tending to kids, flock, whatever, and spin. And so you spin this little guy and it puts twist into the fiber, and then you actually end up separating some of that fiber as it goes along. Once you're all done making this is actually not finished yarn. So you actually have to take this yarn and you have to do a thing called plying. A lot of yarns will be held 2 together or 3 together. And so we're gonna do 2 together, or 3 together right here. So here's 2 and here's 3. And then when I let this go, and I'll just like let this twist come back on itself, it actually makes the yarn. And so you'll see these twists in here, and all of those twists are what you would normally see as string. And so this is what makes it strong. So you can see I'm using quite a bit of force. But if I was just looking at the single breaks right away. So it's really just the twist that makes it strong here.
And kind of the 2 twists going in the 2 different directions that like the force opposes each other and they create their strength.
So yeah, you can see like it's...
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that is your strength. So after you spend hours and hours and hours, so we've just spent a couple minutes making this, you can end up with a skein of yarn.
So then how do you turn this into this?
We're actually going to pull some loops through loops. And so this is what knitting looks like. And this is very different from a woven piece of fabric too. So we can do little increases and we can do decreases, but a woven piece would have horizontal fibers going left and right, and then you'd have vertical fibers up and down and up and down, and everything lays very flat. This is all one string, and that you can actually just completely undo by pulling the loop away.
I had read too somewhere that when people discovered knitting, it was like a game changer because then you could like make clothing for children that would last a while because the knit allows the fabric to stretch.
Yes.
Whereas woven fabric is like, does not stretch
It's
at all.
incredibly hard to stretch woven fabric, but you can even see in this fabric, the stretch is fantastic. With a sweater like this, you actually start from the bottom up. You make this loop here, and then you start working all the way up until it's time to join the sleeves. You have loops that you start with the bottom of the sleeves, and they go all the way up. You meet them all together. You make the design at the top of the shoulders. Then you make the neck part, and your sweater is all done.
Goodness. Super cool. From
raw
wool
wool
to a wearable
sweater.
item. What a process.
Aren't we glad that we have machines that do this?
Oh my
now?
goodness, right?
It's so nice.
So tedious. No wonder people used to have like a sweater.
Yeah.
What a labor
You
intensive
would
thing.
get one sweater, you get one pair of pants, because if it takes you 3 minutes just to make a yard of yarn.
Yep. Oh my goodness. So cool. Thanks, Lantry.
Thank you, Nels.